to Martha Monday School with a drink in hand. Cheers. Welcome back to the AfterTap channel and welcome to another episode of Martha Monday, where we learn how to clean like the cleaning queen herself, Martha Stewart, through her Martha Stewart's Homekeeping Handbook. I actually said it right this time. We are going through this book chapter by chapter every week, talking about all the things Martha knows that we don't and trying to implement it into our own housekeeping, but kind of with like an updated modern twist. So today is all about food storage, and we are going to be talking about some controversial topics such as, does a spoon actually keep the bubbles in champagne? Should you keep bananas or tomatoes in the refrigerator? Should you actually freeze your coffee? And honestly, so much more. My mind is blown. As you can see, I have quite a few notes in here. I have really enjoyed this topic. It's been a nice switch up. So grab your Martha Stewart book or grab your notepad because you're going to want to write this stuff down, and let's get into it. We are covering pages 100 through to 139 in today's episode. So we finished off last week with talking about how to care for your cast iron skillet or your cast iron pan. And we are continuing into cookware here. So that is actually on page 101, the cast iron that we spoke about. But in this, it has basically everything that you need to set up your kitchen properly. So there's everything you need from cookware, bakeware, essential baking tools, the types of knives and which ones are the best to invest in, and how to know the right metal, and how to know basically if you're getting the best quality, how to sharpen them, how to store them, a lot about knives. And then it gets into tools and gadgets and then caring for wooden tools. So I'm gonna skip right to Martha's 1, 2, 3, 4 tips for caring for your wooden tools, but I definitely recommend this section of the book for people in similar situations to me. I am engaged, yay, and setting up our household. I mean, we've lived together for 3 years, but I feel like there are a lot of things in here, like, you know, a Dutch oven or a roasting pan for turkey, or honestly, like even a pie dish. Like, there's a lot of things in here that are essential in having your home the way your mom's was or the way your parents were, but aren't things that you would buy for yourself. So it's definitely something I'm going to be referencing as I build out our registry and our wish list, and even just we have a running iPhone note of things that we're working towards buying. Some of them are fun, but some of them are just like, hey, like, you know, we really need a new coffee table because this one's falling apart. So we just have that in the notes, and we have the links to the ones we want. And then whenever we have a chance or extra funds for the month, we will go ahead and work on buying those things. So there's a lot in here that I am going to be adding to that list or to our registry, and I highly recommend checking that out. But getting into Martha's 4 tips for caring for wooden tools. So wooden tools being like wooden spoons, salad tongs, anything like that that you're using and touching food with. So number 1, she says, because wood is absorbent, soaking wooden tools and putting them back in the dishwasher would most likely make them have mildew. So before you put them away, you need to have them completely dry, and she recommends washing by hand with a cloth dampened with a solution of 1 part chlorine bleach and 10 parts water. That's interesting. I didn't read that part. So anyway, don't put it in the dishwasher. I think we touched on that like 2 weeks ago, but don't put your wooden stuff through the dishwasher, and don't let it soak in like a pile of dirty dishes in the sink. That is like an accident waiting to happen in terms of bacteria. Not all wood is created equal. This is tip number 2. Cheaper tools and utensils are typically made of soft wood such as pine, aka our kitchen floors, pine, which will not withstand regular use in a kitchen. Absolutely agree. You should see how many dents are in our floor. But with your tools, you want to look for good quality hardwood with no jagged edges. We actually have tossed a couple things that we've noticed had jagged edges, and one of them was a cheese like serving knife, and yeah, the wood was just chipping off into people's cheese. Not good. Okay, tip number 3, wood tends to have hold strong odors and flavors. So use separate tools for different jobs. For example, don't stir your pasta sauce with the same wooden spoon that you use for cookie dough. How many wooden spoons do you all have in your kitchen? Because I have 2, and only 2. Oh my goodness. I think my wooden spoon might be in the dishwasher right now. It was in the dishwasher, and what's worse is it didn't even get cleaned. That is a no-go. Number 4, store wooden tools in a cool, dry spot. Again, too much moisture could breed mildew. To keep the wood from drying and cracking, condition it every few months with a non-toxic mineral oil available at the kitchen supply store. Used for salad bowls, butcher blocks. This will also create a barrier over the wood grain. This isn't something I was going to touch on, but there's a little excerpt here about how to clean a box grater, and I have always had this issue. I don't know how to clean it, especially by hand, so we just put it in the dishwasher, but especially with lemon zest, I don't find it gets it out. So she's saying soak it in warm water to loosen all the bits of food off, and then use your kitchen toothbrush, which we should all have now that we've set up our essential kitchen cleaning tools. So use that old toothbrush to scrape it out. Oh, make sure you have a brush with a long handle to keep from scraping your knuckles. Oh yeah, it always is scary. So then it goes into the next 2 pages about basic tools and gadgets. So everything from like a bowl scraper and a basting brush and cutting boards and zesters and peelers. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of stuff you need to set up a kitchen. It's crazy. Who would have guessed there are so many sizes and shapes of wire whisks? With experience, you can discover which one is most useful for a specific task. Holy cow, we have 2 whisks, and I'm pretty sure they're identical. So, now we are going to get into the stuff that I think is really going to change the way that we think and store and buy food. So we are on page 128 now. So the next 10 or 11 pages are all about food storage. And as you can see, I have a lot of notes. So the first part I want to go over is what to keep in your pantry and how long to actually keep it. So there is a theme, a year. That is a very, very common theme throughout, is that it only lasts a year. Most food only lasts a year. I will tell you the exceptions though and still go over everything, but I think that is a good thing to remember so that we aren't overbuying and that we're making sure we take inventory of our pantry and not stocking up forever and ever. I'm drinking this Island Time Any. I don't know, it's just a vodka drink. Usually I don't like sweet, but it's pretty good. Let's get into it. What to keep in the pantry and for how long. So baking, 1 year. Canned or bottled food, 1 year, or to the expiry date, which could be longer, could be shorter. Keep your bottles in the refrigerator as soon as you open them. I know that's always up for debate, so guess what? Ketchup goes in the fridge after you open it. Despite popular belief, there are enough preservatives, but it will stay fresher longer in the fridge, so put that baby in the fridge. Unused canned goods. So you know when you're making, I don't know, a pasta or whatever, cold pasta salad, and you use half the can of chickpeas, the other half can go into your fridge only for 3 to 4 days before it will spoil. So good to know. Pasta, 1 year. Flours, 1 year in the pantry, but nut flour should be in your freezer and can only be kept for 6 months. I know I have almond flour in my pantry, so that's definitely something I have to switch. Cornmeal, if this is not already in your freezer, it needs to be because it attracts pests. We're not even going to touch what exactly pests means, but it's just a bunch of stuff you don't want in your pantry. Rice, it's going to be 1 year. Nuts are going to be in the freezer for 6 months so that they don't go, as Martha says, rancid. Dry fruit can be in the pantry for 1 year, but lasts longer in the fridge. And then nut oils are gonna have to be 3 months in the fridge, but others can be 6 months in the pantry. Spices, there's not really a date. She says best before 1 year they start to lose their potency, but honestly, like, spices are fine. Sugar, 1 year. And then this is when it gets interesting. So vegetables in your pantry. Let me know in the comments below what vegetables you currently have in your pantry, and then this is what Martha suggests. By the way, I have 0 vegetables in my pantry. They're all in the fridge. So I'm not sitting here pretending like I am any better off. Potatoes do not go in the refrigerator, ever. Ever. I did not know this. If you've watched my videos, you know I have a potato spot in the crisper where I put all of our potatoes. And not only do they not go in the refrigerator, they do not stay in their plastic. So you want to put them into a basket. So this is one place where decanting is 100% recommended by Martha. Actually, decanting for the most part is recommended by Martha, just not with her eggs for whatever reason. But you do not want to put your potatoes in the refrigerator. You want to remove them from the bag and put them in a basket in a dry, cool pantry. So, I did not know that. Now, other things, other vegetables that need to be in your pantry are onions, shallots, and garlic. Don't refrigerate any of those. I also didn't know that one. I always thought onions are better in the refrigerator because there's less, like, they'll make you cry less. I don't know where I heard that, but that's what I thought. But it's saying make sure those are also not in the refrigerator. Same thing, not in plastic, in the baskets, in a cool pantry. And do not put your onions in the same basket as your potatoes because they will spoil. Interesting, I didn't know that. Let me know in the comments if you did. Since we talked about eggs, I made a note of this one. Eggs, stop using the egg holder in your fridge door. If you have the plastic egg holder in your fridge door, that is not the place for them. There's a couple reasons. There's 0 reason, Martha said, to keep taking your eggs out of the cardboard. I am guilty. And if you have them in the drawer, not only will, or in the door, not only will the eggs bounce around, but also they are going to be constantly exposed every time you open the fridge with warm air. So, good to know. Eggs usually stay fresh for 3 to 4 weeks after they're put in the carton, and there's usually a code on it. So, there's the packing date, so 1 meaning January, and then there's 365 days, and it will say 1/287 or whatever, and then that is how you know the day it was packed. And you basically just want to make sure you eat them within a month. So then this next section, we're now on page 131. It goes through every type of meat, dairy, eggs, fish, and tells you exactly how long they last in the refrigerator and in the freezer. For some of them, obviously eggs and cheese you can't refrigerate according to Martha, but everything else it shows you refrigerator and freezer how long. So I'll quickly read through some of these in case it's interesting for you. Again, I highly recommend this book because there's just so much information. There's no way for me to possibly explain everything in these videos, but ground beef is 1 to 2 days in the fridge and 3 to 4 months in the freezer. Pork chops, 3 to 5 days in the fridge, 4 to 6 months in the freezer. Lunch meat, 3 to 5 days in the refrigerator. This is why I have a hard time buying any sort of lunch meat. Also, we're trying to cut out meat in general, but I find it so hard to eat it in time. Or 1 to 2 months in the freezer. And she makes note in this as well that you want to cover your meats, if it's going in the freezer, with an additional freezer bag, not just the plastic that it was packaged in, because that is not intended to be in the freezer and it does not protect it from getting freezer burn. So then she continues, chicken 1 to 2 days in the refrigerator, 12 months in the freezer, etc., etc. So that is, again, page 131 if you want to reference it. And then we get into storage tips for fruits, vegetables, and herbs. And there is one thing I really want to talk about from this list, and that is about your tomatoes. Where do you currently store your tomatoes? Do you keep them on the counter, in the pantry, or in the refrigerator? Because I've been keeping them in the refrigerator, and that is a huge no-no. You are not supposed to. I'll tell you what she says about that. Tomatoes, which are actually a fruit, should not be refrigerated unless they are in danger of going bad. See charts on page 136 and 137, which basically is, we're going to get to it, but it basically says the date of each vegetable and fruit and like how long it will be good for, and basically gives you an idea of if you have all these fruits and vegetables, here's the ones that you need to eat first. She also talks about bananas here. So it's conventional wisdom not to refrigerate bananas. You heard it from Martha herself. But it is okay to do so. The fruit will remain fine inside, and it's just the peel that will blacken. And unripe bananas will mature into 4 to 6 days. And green yellow ones should ripen in 2 to 4 days. To speed the ripening, if you need to speed it, put bananas into a paper bag and put them on your counter. Just make sure they're not into direct sunlight. Then she goes into a whole bunch of other food storage tips, and if you can see, I still have all my notes here, and there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. First of them is coffee. So coffee is best when used in 2 weeks of purchase. Always put into a airtight container, 1 week's worth, and keep in a dry spot such as a cabinet. Coffee beans and grounds should never be kept in the refrigerator. If you want to buy them in bulk, you keep a week out, as she says, and put the rest in the freezer, dividing them into 1 week portions. Never return coffee to the freezer once you bring it back to room temperature, and do not store grounds in the freezer for more than 2 months. So let me know if you've been keeping coffee in your pantry, because once again, AfterTap failed. Okay, then there's a little side note here. Cooked food should not be left out for more than 2 hours after you cook it, and if it is, there's a very good chance it has already spoiled. So if you've been having a party and you left a bunch of meats and cheeses out on the board for more than 2 hours, do not put them back in the refrigerator. There's probably already bacteria growing on it, and it will just continue to grow even once you put it in the refrigerator. So that is good to know, but also she mentions you're wanting to let everything completely cool before you do put it in the fridge. So you kind of have this window of like, you want it to be cool, but you also need to get it in within 2 hours. So I don't know, like a half an hour after it cools, make sure you set your phone timer to get it back in the fridge. Okay, the next note I have here is about champagne. And I'm just gonna read it directly from Martha so nobody comes at me with telling me I'm wrong. I have done this trick as well, but champagne cannot be recorked. The best way to keep an open bottle of champagne is to insert a metal champagne stopper and refrigerate it. Disregard the myth that champagne keeps in the fridge if you put a silver spoon in the neck of the bottle. And then she says, for more on storing wines, turn to page 178. We aren't there yet, but I'm excited to get to that spot. Okay, page 134, all the way. Actually, this is it. So 134 to 37, and then we just have a couple things on food containers, and that's the whole part of the chapter that we are covering. But this fruit storage guidelines, so I just love that I could always reference this now that I know it's in the book, but it has everything from how long apples should be stored in the fridge, things to consider when you're trying to pick the best one at the grocery store, depending on when you want to eat it. And I know this is something that I always have to either call my mom or Google, is like, okay, how do I know if a watermelon's good? Or even better, something that is a little bit different, like how do I know if guava is good? Or, you know, dragon fruit is good. You don't always understand. Of course, with like pineapple, I know that if I can pick out the stems, the leaves, if I can pick out the leaves pretty easily, then it's close to being ripe or already ripe. If they won't come out, then I know I have a few days. But this tells you everything, and it's so useful. I don't know if I should be reading all of this out to you or what, but I, again, highly recommend this. And it has everything from apples are 1 month, avocados up to 4 days. Berries are highly perishable, 2 to 3 days good in your refrigerator. Grapefruit, good for 2 weeks. Grapes, good for 3 to 5 days. Melons, good for 1 full week when they're whole, or 3 days when they're cut. Oranges, 2 weeks. Peaches and nectarines, 5 days. Pears, 5 days. Pineapple, 3 days. Plums, 5 days. Like, and then interesting enough, oh, I get it. So I was like, interesting enough, tomatoes don't have a day of how long they can stay okay in the refrigerator, but that's because they're not supposed to be in the refrigerator. So they keep for a week on the counter. So yeah, it keeps on going through all the vegetables just that same way. And I think this is so useful as we're trying to shop more sustainably and make sure that we aren't wasting food. This is such a good way to see like when I should be eating something. In fact, I have asparagus. Ooh, yeah. Okay, so I have asparagus that I've had for 2 weeks in the fridge now. It's good in the refrigerator for 3 to 4 days. Place upright in a glass with 1 inch of water and wrap the stems with a damp paper towel. Let me show you. So that is exactly what I do with the asparagus. However, they have been in there for way longer than 3 to 5 days. So I should probably see if that's still good enough to eat, or if I'm gonna have to compost that. So that is everything we are covering in today's Martha Monday. I hope that was insightful for you. I hope that it gets you questioning how you are storing your food. I know it did for me, for sure. I'm excited to continue. We are almost done all the kitchen section, and it's gonna be so nice to move to another location in the house for the next few episodes. So thank you again for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you next Martha Monday. Bye.